Like they're at the bottom of the arch, which is like 300 feet or something. It's pretty deep. What we want to show is the reality of what these divers run into, and then kind of talk about what would happen if we run into this, or if we, depending on the situation.
The water was calm, almost deceivingly so, when Robert Kensington broke the surface. His hands trembled as he peeled off his mask, and before anyone could ask, he dropped his resignation on the captain's desk. Just like that, the diver who had faced storms, sharks, and the deepest trenches of the Pacific walked away from it all. Captain Reeves stared, disbelief written across his weathered face. Something had gone terribly wrong beneath the waves. At 180 feet below, Robert wasn't alone, or at least not with anything familiar.
He can dream, he can do. And what he just did is explore the deepest point at the bottom of the sea.
He had seen creatures before, monstrous squids, shadows of whales, but nothing like this. It didn't swim, it hovered. Its shape defied logic. Its presence demanded attention, as if the ocean itself had a secret it was finally revealing. For weeks, it had been there, watching, waiting. And now Robert had glimpsed it fully. Alarms, no attacks, just an encounter that shook him to the core. Now, on the platform, dry and trembling, he knew life would never be the same. Stay with us, because what Robert saw that day challenges everything we know about the depths, and we're about to uncover the full story. A diver's life before the encounter. Robert Kensington was not an ordinary diver. For over 8 years, he had ventured into the deepest, most uncharted parts of the Pacific Ocean. He inspected pipelines that carried vital resources across vast distances, studied the behavior of marine life in near-total darkness, and occasionally came face to face with predators that would terrify most people. Sharks, giant squids, and other creatures lurking far below the sunlit surface. Among his colleagues, he had earned the nickname, the Ghost. It wasn't for stealth or mystery in the traditional sense, but for his ability to remain completely composed when danger struck. Where others panicked, Robert stayed calm. He had pulled teammates out of life-threatening situations more than once, earning respect and awe in equal measure. His team knew that if Robert was leading a dive, the chances of returning safely were much higher than average. His day-to-day routine on the surface, however, was deceptively quiet. Mornings began before sunrise, checking equipment meticulously, logging previous dives, and reviewing detailed underwater maps to anticipate every challenge. Every oxygen tank was examined, every regulator tested, and every line marked for safe navigation. Robert knew that even the smallest oversight could cost him his life. On land, he preferred solitude, walking along the docks, listening to the ocean waves and mentally preparing for the day ahead. But underwater, he came alive. Each dive was more than work. It was a puzzle to solve. The currents, the terrain, and the hidden life forms created a dynamic environment where every decision mattered. He thrived on that focus and responsibility, feeling an unmatched connection to the ocean's depth and mystery. Despite years of experience, Robert never let confidence turn into carelessness. Deep dives were inherently dangerous. At 180 feet, water pressure was intense, affecting the body and mind. Nitrogen narcosis could make even seasoned divers see or hear things that weren't there. And decompression sickness was a constant threat if ascent times weren't followed precisely. Equipment failure, though rare, was another constant concern. A malfunction at that depth could turn routine inspection into a life-or-death struggle. Yet Robert had never hesitated. He had encountered situations that would make others abandon hope, but he trusted his training, instincts, and calm reasoning. Over the years, he had developed an almost instinctual sense of the ocean's rhythm. He could sense changes in water currents, detect the approach of large marine animals, and navigate complex underwater structures blindfolded, relying solely on subtle visual cues and his experience. His mind could remain clear, even when surrounded by complete darkness, relying on memory, instruments, and intuition. Fellow divers often wondered how someone could remain so composed in such extreme conditions, but Robert considered it a normal response. To him, this was life, not a performance. Yet beneath all this expertise and confidence lay a diver who respected the ocean profoundly. He knew its beauty and danger existed together, inseparable, like two sides of the same coin. For years he had tested the limits of his courage, endurance, and intellect, always coming back with more knowledge, more stories, and a deep sense of humility toward the vast, unexplored waters. This extensive preparation, unwavering focus, and fearless attitude are precisely why Robert's reaction to what he would encounter on that fateful dive was so shocking. No storm, no predator, no equipment failure had ever rattled him. Nothing had ever made him question his own senses. Until that day, the ocean had been a familiar, if sometimes dangerous, home.
The harshest environment in the world is the deep ocean, and it's unforgiving, as I said, and going down there is always a risk.
What he would see next would challenge everything he thought he knew about the depths and about himself. The solo dive that changed everything. It began as an ordinary day for Robert Kensington, a routine dive that he had performed countless times over the years. But fate had other plans. One of his colleagues, Johnson, called in sick at the last minute, claiming food poisoning. That left Robert with no choice but to take on the inspection alone. Without hesitation, he volunteered. Solo dives were familiar territory for him. In fact, he preferred them. The quiet focus, the ability to move without distractions, and the sense of complete control over the dive made these moments both comforting and exhilarating. The mission was simple, or so it seemed. The pipeline junction he needed to inspect lay 180 feet below the ocean's surface, a place he had visited multiple times in his career. Before entering the water, Robert checked everything meticulously. Weather conditions were calm, visibility was excellent, and the currents were mild. His oxygen levels were verified, communication equipment tested, and backup systems double-checked. The ocean, as always, demanded respect, and Robert had learned that preparation was the difference between life and death. The descent into the deep blue was uneventful at first. Sunlight streamed through the water, casting long beams that danced across schools of amberjack, their silvery scales glinting like tiny mirrors. Curious groupers followed his movements, inspecting him as much as he inspected them. The water was unusually clear for this time of year, giving him a perfect view of the rocky terrain and the intricate structures of the pipeline below. He mentally ticked off each step of his checklist, photographing joints, monitoring pressure gauges, and ensuring the connections were intact. Everything appeared normal, and yet beneath this surface of normalcy, a subtle unease began to creep in. The usual hum of marine life, the constant swish of fins, the chatter of small fish darting in and out of rock crevices, suddenly fell silent. A few fish that usually followed in schools disappeared entirely, leaving gaps that should have been filled. At first, he convinced himself it was a temporary disturbance, perhaps a shift in the current, or a predator passing through. But instinctively, Robert felt an unfamiliar prickle along the back of his neck, a warning that made the hairs on his arms stand up. The ocean, usually alive and unpredictable, now felt deliberate, as if someone or something was watching him. He paused, checking his depth gauge. 180 feet. Air supply? Perfect. Equipment is functioning normally. Everything should have been fine. Yet, a growing sense of observation gnawed at him. It was as if the water itself held its breath, waiting for something. His mind, trained to remain rational and methodical, struggled to dismiss the feeling. Every diver learns to trust instinct. Roberts was screaming that something was very wrong. As he moved closer to the pipeline junction, the tension thickened. The usual ambient sounds of the sea, bubbling, clicking of crustaceans, and distant whale calls had vanished entirely. Even the gentle sway of underwater plants seemed unnaturally still. Robert tried to shake it off, focusing on the task at hand, documenting every bolt and weld. But with each step, the invisible pressure of being observed increased. It wasn't a predator lurking in the shadows. It was something else. Something that didn't belong, something that defied explanation. He slowed his movements, scanning the surrounding area with his flashlight. The beam cut through the water, illuminating rocks and coral formations, but revealing nothing alive, nothing that could account for the silence, the emptiness. And yet, he felt eyes on him. The feeling was not fleeting. It persisted, growing stronger with each passing second. Panic had no place in a diver's mind at that depth, but the sensation was undeniable. Someone or something was studying him, matching his movements with impossible precision. Robert attempted to rationalize it. Maybe it was a deep-sea current affecting visibility, or perhaps a school of fish hiding beyond his light. He forced himself to breathe slowly, controlling the adrenaline surging through his veins. The dive, which should have been a simple inspection, was no longer a routine task. Every instinct he had honed over the years screamed at him to ascend, yet curiosity anchored him to the site. Something was out there. Something he could not yet see, but it was aware. The invisible tension pressed down, heavier than any water above him, and Robert knew with a sinking certainty that his dive had changed irrevocably. From the surface, the dive might have looked normal, a man in a wetsuit descending into clear blue water. But beneath, the ordinary had transformed into something unimaginable. The pipeline, the fish, even the water itself seemed to carry an unnatural stillness, as if the ocean were holding secrets it had never revealed to any human before. Robert had felt prepared for sharks, for equipment failure, even for sudden currents. But this was different. The deep had a presence now, something intelligent and patient, and it had chosen him. By the time he reached the junction, the silent, watchful tension had grown unbearable. The familiar excitement of a solo dive had been replaced with caution bordering on fear. The ocean was no longer just water and life. It was an entity, aware, observing, and Robert knew he was stepping into a moment that would change everything he had ever known about the depths. The unseen watcher below. Then it happened. The first hint that this dive was no longer routine came in the form of a faint pulsing light deep below him. At first, Robert thought it might be bioluminescence from plankton or a distant jellyfish, but the glow was too deliberate, too structured, unlike anything he had ever encountered in 8 years of deep dives. It was subtle at first, a soft shimmer, almost like a heartbeat in the water, but it grew brighter, closer, moving in a way that no current could explain. His heart began to race, not from exertion, but from an instinctive awareness that he was being observed. The water around him seemed alive in a different way, charged with a presence that was not natural. Robert had faced sharks, sudden equipment failures, and strong currents, yet nothing had ever made him feel this exposed. Every flick of his light, every cautious turn, seemed to be mirrored. The ocean, vast and open, felt suddenly confined, as if invisible eyes were tracking his every movement. Robert adjusted his buoyancy compensator, trying to ascend slowly while keeping his eyes fixed on the light. It moved, as if aware of him, maintaining distance but never losing sight of his position. There was no aggression, no threat in its behavior, yet the intensity of its gaze was terrifying. It wasn't simply a creature. It was intelligence, deliberate and patient, with an awareness that chilled him to the bone. He tried to observe its shape more clearly. The creature, or whatever it was, did not resemble anything he had ever studied. Not a whale, not a squid, not even a distorted image of known marine life. Its form seemed almost geometric, a living structure that bent and shifted in ways that defied the physics of water. Appendages appeared to stretch and move independently, yet smoothly, as though existing in multiple places at once. It was both alien and mesmerizing, a paradox of movement and stillness. The light reflected strangely on his equipment, creating shadows that made the scene even more surreal. Every instinct in Robert's body told him to retreat, to ascend immediately. But fascination anchored him. The intelligence behind the glow was undeniable. It was watching, studying, perhaps even communicating. His mind raced. Had it been following him during previous dives? Had it observed the other divers? A chill ran through him as he recalled the strange shadows he sometimes glimpsed in the corner of his vision. The fleeting sense of being watched even in safe areas of the platform. Robert's breathing remained calm, controlled, but his heart hammered in his chest. He had trained for emergencies, but this was not a standard risk. This was unknown, and the rules he had lived by for years no longer applied. The light shifted, pulsing with rhythm and intention, almost like it was signaling him, guiding him toward an understanding he could not yet grasp. Every second spent in the presence of this creature intensified the tension, the weight of the ocean pressing down. Yet the curiosity inside him burned stronger. Time seemed to distort as he observed. Minutes stretched like hours, and yet the creature made no sudden moves. It simply floated, its presence undeniable, a silent sentinel in the deep blue. Robert tried to focus on his instruments, on his checklist, anything to remind himself that reality still followed rules. But his mind could not dismiss the impossible. This was not a hallucination, not a trick of light or pressure. He knew it. His equipment readings confirmed normal depth, oxygen, and temperature. The anomaly existed, alive and conscious, just beyond human comprehension. Every move he made was deliberate, cautious. He kept a controlled distance, documenting the position and behavior of the unseen watcher. The feeling of exposure intensified. He was no longer a diver inspecting a pipeline. He was prey, observed by something ancient, patient, and aware. The ocean around him had transformed into a realm of mystery, a place where human understanding faltered, and where Robert realized he was witnessing something the world had never seen before. The dive, which had begun as routine, had turned into an encounter that would forever change his perception of the deep sea. Beneath the calm, sunlit surface, intelligence lurked, ancient and incomprehensible, waiting silently for him to understand, or perhaps simply to witness. Aftermath and unanswered questions. Robert finally emerged from the water, his wetsuit clinging to him like a second skin, soaked and heavy. Every muscle in his body trembled not from exertion, but from shock. The familiar thrill of diving had vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. He could barely form words, his voice trapped somewhere between disbelief and fear. The only action he could think of, the only coherent step he could take, was to write and deliver his resignation. The letter, stark and unadorned, lay on Captain Reeves's desk, a silent testimony to the encounter that had left him shaken to the core. Captain Reeves, seasoned and steady through decades of dangerous operations, felt a rare unease watching Robert. He had seen divers panic, equipment fail, and even encounters with predators, but nothing matched the visible terror in Robert's eyes. Communication logs were scrutinized, screens scanned for anomalies, yet nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Every instrument had functioned perfectly. The data showed normal depth, oxygen, and pressure readings. And yet, a deeper investigation into the area revealed something disturbing. Divers from previous weeks, some assigned to the same pipeline sectors, had disappeared without explanation. The realization sent a cold chill through Reeves and the crew alike. Questions tormented Robert as he tried to process what had occurred. Why had the creature followed him? Did it intend to mark him for some reason beyond his understanding? What had happened to the missing divers? Were they victims, or had they encountered the same intelligence lurking beneath the waves? The ocean had revealed something no human had ever seen, something ancient and cunning, existing silently in the vast expanse beneath the surface. Every familiar principle of diving and ocean exploration seemed to falter in the face of this unknown. Speculation ran rampant among the crew. Some suggested it could be an undiscovered species, an evolutionary anomaly adapted to the extreme depths. Others were quick to dismiss Robert's account, blaming hallucinations brought on by deep-sea pressure, nitrogen narcosis, or fatigue. Yet Robert's meticulous log records depth, timing, and equipment checks confirmed that there had been no error, no misreading, no hallucination. The reality of his encounter was undeniable. He had seen something intelligent, deliberate, and completely alien. The incident left a lingering, chilling uncertainty. Could this entity strike again? Was it observing other divers now, silently following them, waiting for a moment to reveal itself? Every member of the team realized that the ocean, with all its beauty and familiarity, held secrets far beyond human comprehension. Even the calm, sunlit waters of the Pacific now felt like a doorway to a world unknown, where intelligence and life existed in forms that defied imagination. Robert's story spread quickly among the diving community, igniting a mixture of fear and curiosity. It served as a haunting reminder that, despite modern technology and centuries of exploration, humans still know very little about the deep sea. The creature's presence, silent, deliberate, and intelligent, challenged everything divers believed about their domain. No explanation fully satisfied the crew, leaving questions that would remain unanswered. And in the quiet moments before sleep, Robert could still feel it. A gaze from the depths, patient and unblinking, watching, waiting, and reminding him that some truths of the ocean were never meant to be fully understood. The ocean's hidden secrets. The ocean has always held mysteries that humans struggle to comprehend. Even with modern technology, submarines, and sonar equipment, countless anomalies continue to puzzle scientists and divers alike. There have been reports of sudden disappearances of ships and submarines, strange lights recorded in the depths, and divers who describe the eerie sensation of being watched. These stories, scattered across history, hint at a world beneath the waves that is far from fully explored. It is a realm where familiar rules often do not apply, and the known and unknown intertwine in ways that challenge logic. At 180 feet below the surface, where Robert Kensington's dive took place, water pressure exceeds 80 psi. That force alone is enough to strain even the most durable diving equipment, requiring meticulous planning and precise execution. Divers prepare for the expected, checking oxygen levels, monitoring currents, and mapping out obstacles. But the ocean has a way of presenting the unexpected. Sometimes, instinct becomes more important than any instrument. Robert's encounter revealed that beneath the calm, blue exterior of the ocean lies an entirely different reality. Something alive, intelligent, and unseen had existed there, silent and observant, in ways that no technology could measure or predict. Scientists continue to debate what might explain such experiences. Some propose the existence of undiscovered intelligent species capable of living at extreme depths, while others suggest natural phenomena like unusual light refraction or deep-sea currents that could deceive even trained observers. Yet Robert's detailed documentation, depth readings, air supply, and equipment logs leaves little room for doubt. His account confirms that the encounter was not imagined. It was real, an event that challenges our understanding of life in the ocean. The unseen watcher that followed Robert may not have been an isolated anomaly. There is growing speculation that certain parts of the deep sea are home to entities or phenomena that have silently observed humans for centuries. Whether biological, environmental, or something entirely beyond current comprehension, the deep ocean proves that our planet is not fully tamed. Curiosity, while essential for discovery, comes with consequences. Robert's experience is a reminder that even the most seasoned explorers can be humbled by the ocean's hidden secrets, a domain where human knowledge is limited, and the unknown waits patiently beneath the surface, silent, intelligent, and undisturbed. Robert's dive left more questions than answers. The ocean, vast and unexplored, had revealed a presence he could not ignore. Even after quitting, he felt its gaze in dreams, in shadows, and in the quiet moments when the sea's call whispered at the edge of his mind. His story reminds us that some mysteries are bigger than our understanding, and some encounters leave marks that never fade. The waters he explored hide countless secrets, waiting silently, unseen by human eyes. Scientists can measure pressure and currents. Divers can track marine life. But the deep holds things that defy explanation. Robert's experience is a reminder that the ocean's depths are still largely unknown, and that sometimes curiosity comes with consequences. If you were in Robert's position, would you dive again, or would you heed the warning and stay away? Comment below with your thoughts. Share your own experiences or theories, and let us know how you would react in the face of the unknown. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We bring you real-life stories from the edge of human experience, uncovering mysteries that challenge what we think we know. Stay with us, because the truth is deeper than the ocean itself.